Hey folks, Derpy here, back with my final Ravager build thoughts following the VXP weekend. Fingers crossed, this is my final build video I have out for the Ravagers here. As I get started, I want to say thank you so much to people such as TSM, Jerry Gamer, etc., Ren, FA, who put out their thoughts on this stuff and builds. It's interesting how 4 or 5 of us arrived at the same exact specials with completely different methodologies to get there. And as always, these builds are a community effort, as TSM said on his forum post. Jumping into it, this is not the normal build you might have been expecting. I'm not using kick-size weapons, I'm not using half of the new specials. Of course, that is because of this very specific thing I'm doing here, and that is I am maxing out the corrosive damage, which is usually a bad thing with the new specials. This is actually the Absolver Scattergun build. What I mean by that is it's straight up normal damage. Absolver Scatterguns do normal damage, you just hit something and it does damage. There's no damage over time, there's no hit and run, and all the numbers, all the paper is telling me this is going to be 2 or 3 times as good on auto. It won't actually end up being that good, there's no way, but if you're going to auto, and you don't want to hit and run, you don't want to drive too much, you want to drive lazy, this build looks to me like it's going to be what you want to go for. The huge problem with this, and I cannot emphasize this enough, is that thinking outside the box tends to get you punished in today's game. That's a big red flag. So if you're thinking outside the box, be prepared to be punished. Do more research on this build than what I have on here right now. Take a look at the forum threads I've gone through on the damage over time, some charts and some numbers and some stuff like that, and ask questions in your alliance on the Forsaken Council page, a few other places, but it's very likely that Absolver Scatterguns end up working better, and the math says it's going to be way better for things that are not doing hit and run damage over time damage. In the interest of time, I won't go through too much specials on here, but this is just what I picked out. If you have something different, want to know why, compare the numbers, see if mine are higher than yours, or not, or if yours are higher than mine, then you might have a better build out there. Let's now switch over to the Ravager build I'm going to personally be going for. What you are seeing here is that I'm using, first of all, the Armors, low-hanging fruit here, 3 corrosive, 1 missile, thanks to TSM who actually showed the damage power report. More damage looked to be corrosive. If you don't care, just go 2 and 2. If you're not convinced that more is corrosive, more is missile, just go 2 and 2. Autoing might actually be flipped based on the damage from those really high-powered damage missiles that you can outrun easily if you're driving, but on auto you might get hit by missiles a whole bunch more. Now, in terms of the weapons, I have split weapons. The short answer is these things stack differently. The long answer is there is a forum post on here. So the 14,400 Bloodletter and the 14,400 Spleenblaster stack separately unless Kickside messes things up, which I hope they don't do. So you want to make sure you're using split ones. So if the target ends up having over 10 or 15 million health, split weapons do way better. If it's more like 5 million health, Absolvers will do fantastic. If it's in the middle, 10 million or so, then you're going to do fairly well with the split weapons. You might slightly underperform, very slightly, 5-10% less than all limited. For that reason, I think the downside risk is very low to splitting, and the upside risk is very high to doing that. Again, more information on a forum post. I don't have time to jump into that today, and most people probably don't care. It doesn't matter too much, we're talking 10-20% realistically. I'm choosing to split, you may choose to go all limited, I don't care, I'm not going to fight you over that. Jumping into the specials, notice that everything I'm doing is to increase damage over time, and stacks, and multishot, and supercharge. None of it is to increase corrosive damage. Because damage over time on this stat is not affected by corrosive damage. I'll say that again, damage over time is not affected by corrosive damage. Why? Because Kickside has it that way, and it's not really changing anytime soon. You see at the very bottom of your screen, 1200 damage over time total damage. Compare that to 96 normal regular damage. Which number is greater? 1200. It makes way more sense to emphasize that one. I am recording this for the 3rd time, so sorry if I seem a bit grumpy. Anyway, looking in terms of the specials, the first one is just an engine, Referged power core. It's the tier 10 Assault engine. It's the best one out there. If you don't have this, use 5 of the tier 9 FTL or tier 9.5, whatever it actually was. Make sure they're all the same and have the same combat speed, turn speed, etc. Number 2 is the Chaff Splitter System. This is a great anti-missile special, also has some benefits for the Multishot as well, which stacks with a few other things. If you don't have this, use something like Countermeasure Loaders 4, Anti-Missile Proliferation System 2, another anti-missile special, or Multishot special. It's going to depend on a few things. We'll come back to this one when we talk about Combustion System 2, which you'll notice is not on here. Special number 3 is Acid Effusion Shells. If you don't have this, use another ×6 supercharge, which really should just be called +6 supercharge. And this thing gives you scattergun reload of 20%, which is fantastic. Bonus combat speed of 30%, which means you have to use this on all your ships, which you should be using it anyway. Special number 4 is an evade/survival special. Interesting combination, very, very useful in my mind. And if you don't have this, something like Guidance number 3 or Hyper 30 across all 5 ships will do quite well. It's a pretty good special in my opinion. Will probably be useful in tier 10.5, tier 11 assault, etc. We also have a +3 Multishot special. This thing has better reload than the other +3 Multishot special, which is the important thing. Corrosive damage does not matter one bit. And comparing this to Twin Fang Feeder, which is the other option, Twin Fang Feeder drops the +2 Multishot, gives you projectile speed. If that ends up being important, Twin Fang Feeder is better. I don't think projectile speed will be super important based off the Exterminator's performance and their projectile speed in the VXP targets. And yes, I know those are completely different hull classes. But a Multishot special here is fantastic. Tier 7 should be fairly easy to get. Scatter System 2 is possible. Twin Fang Feeder is possible as well. But Roaring Barrel System is the best out of those 3 options. This last special is a Supercharge/Combat Speed special, which are 2 very, very important stats. For a while here, I was leaning toward Combustion System 2, but I have since moved back towards this one. After seeing VXP Weekend and seeing a few other people's thoughts they put on out here, I think it's going to be really important, and it makes the volleys to hit max stacks a nice round number, which is nice. By the way, hitting max stacks is not a good thing like launchers, which is why I'm doing the split weapons in the first place. I did touch briefly on Combustion System 2. I almost wanted to use it here. I had it on this for one of my ships, but I since refitted it off. It could be very, very useful and could help you do more damage to things in a larger area, a larger radius, and the positive spread, unlike most traditional weapons, is actually good for damage over time, because it doesn't matter if you hit 1 range away or 15 range away, as long as you're in that splash radius, and Combustion System 2 should increase the damage you're actually doing to targets. But if splash and spread end up being important, which I'm not convinced is going to be true, it didn't help out too much in the VXP targets when I looked at time to kill something, I'll just throw on a Molotov mated screw. That's my answer there. I did a lot of thinking about that. I'm not sure if Combustion System 2 will be helpful. Yes, it does have projectile speed. If it is, then Molotov maidens would provide almost the same utility. I'll take the sure guaranteed plus 25% effective damage from the 3 supercharge, going from 12 to 15, than will the potential at a 30% roughly damage increase from Combustion System 2. That's just my thinking there. If you go with Combustion System 2, you'll do fine. I'm not worried about it. Things will work out, and it may even be a better option. I'm not totally sure. I'm not convinced yet. I did briefly mention high volatility cartridges in my first video I put out here. I still sort of like them for projectile speed. They do help that very, very small initial damage, which is doing like 600,000 compared to hundreds of thousands or millions, so 60k, which what I meant to say, versus 500k, 2 million, 4 million. So it's not really going to help out too much, but it's possible if we have something that has very low health, this thing is useful. I don't see it as actually helping out too much whatsoever, because remember, corrosive damage does not affect damage over time. Just a few final notes here on specials. A few people have been talking about using Combustion System 2 instead of Chaff Splitter System, or the Chaff, yep, that's what it's called, and that will be possible as long as that hull does not have any anti-missiles. Which is the next thing we'll jump into, because every single Missile Defense System 3 has a salvo of 10. This means one weapon can deal with 10 incoming weapons, 10 incoming missiles, UAVs, etc., about once every second or two. 10 incoming missiles a second, I don't see us going over that one. I'll just throw on 2 across the entire fleet, period, so I'm used to that. I'm going to make sure I am using them split evenly between which weapons I'm using, so if I'm only going to have, I'm not going to have 18 of one and 20 of the other. I'll have 19 of each because stacks and symmetry, and that's just going to work out best. Please do not use 10 Missile Defense System 3 on your entire fleet, or you are wasting 8 special slots. Yes, I said that. Yes, I mean that. You could probably even get away with 1 Missile Defense System 3 on the entire fleet, but in case the X set or the S set targets have lots of stuff in them, lots of missiles, lots of UAVs, I'll use these ones. Just reading the blueprints, Sprint should work as well. They don't literally fire at all because Kickside breaks their own rules. And something like the anti-missile multi-shot specials like Multiform Anti-Missile or Switchblade have pretty poor performance tested on Everest in the VXP targets. So I'm going to build one ship like this and the others with just 4 of each weapon. Is it going to be the flagship or regular one? I don't know. I'm going to wait to equip those until the flagship and maybe even X1 comes out. For now, what I have is I have one ship currently upgrading on its way to U3. It has these specials I'm pretty certain about here, with the exception being potentially Chaff Splitter System should be Combustion System 2. 4 weapons here, 4 blanks, because Kickside might change the rules on us and have them stack at the same time, which I hope doesn't happen, and then 4 armors, the one being 2 of each type or 3 corrosive. Then the other single ship I've got done, I only have 2 ships done, is just like this one, U3, and these weapons, these specials, fight on the other specials and armor later. Now, my strategy here for this ship build is I'm going to just end up doing 2 ships, 2 normal ships plus the flagship, so 3 ships total for the first raid. Might be up to 4 ships by the end of that first raid with tokens, and of course tokens from the TLC happening next week, or this week anyway. So that's my plan for the Ravagers. I showed you my current 2 ships I have built, so putting my money where the mouth is. I showed you my build I'm planning to go for, sort of the most advanced, over-engineered build I can come up with and think of. Mentioned alternate specials for everything. Mentioned Combustion System 2 might be better. Told you 2 anti-missiles on the entire fleet is all you're possibly going to need. And even showed a build briefly at the beginning for Absolvers and autoing something, which I encourage you to go read a little bit more about, because I don't want to dive into that right now, and it is all speculation, as these always are. Hey, well that's the end of the build video. I really hope you enjoyed it so far. If it was helpful, I spent probably way too many hours on this thing, so go ahead and let me know if it was in the comments. Feel free to share this out with your alliance, whatever. Goal of these videos is to help more people, and doing that helps me do that quite easily. I also want to say thank you to our channel members, especially John W., newest member just joined. Thank you for supporting the channel. What you're doing is really just allowing me to continue helping people more, which is what I mentioned. There's a few videos for you on screen. You can go ahead and click if you wanted to. Other than that, this has been Derpy, signing out, helping you be a better pirate.